Well, today is the first day when I put my coat on and I get inside the car and I almost boiled over, because it's like plus 17. But so eventually I was walking around in one single t-shirt, just like somebody was saying in comments. Remember how before I was wearing two t-shirts and one was like this one, it's a very warm t-shirt because it's fully synthetic. I'm not a big fan. And so I had to wear this one. So today, finally, is the first day when we pretty much have summer. And so I printed out my invoices from the auction. And I spent the morning trying to find a service shop, a forklift repair facility somewhere near Toronto. And I was thinking, once I find that, I'm gonna bring my forklift for some cleanup, maybe some inspection, stuff like that. And after I don't know, 20 calls, everybody has voicemail, nobody's returning calls. One lady finally calls me back, but she says, well, I deal with mobile service. If you need a mechanic on site, which of course is super expensive. I said, no, I just need your regular service. And this particular shop was in Cambridge, Ontario, right? And finally I got the right person. She called me back. Now check this out, the rate to fix a forklift, let's say inspection, fixing some small problems, but I have no idea, maybe it doesn't have any problems, you never know. But they want $160 an hour, Canadian, 160. She says, if you do a credit application, and she sent me a copy of the credit application, then the rate becomes $130 an hour. And I started filling it out, but I don't want to do it like regularly, right? I just want to do a quick checkup on the forklift so that I can honestly look people in the eyes, and say that the forklift works, right? And that's the major reason why I'm gonna fly over there. Of course, I don't have to, right? A lot of people buy stuff online, but again, this is my first time, and most importantly, I need material for new videos, right? So you guys are gonna leave me completely if I don't do anything, novice, right? And so we're gonna do like a road trip, show you the plane, view from the clouds, show some cute stewardesses, in tiny short skirts, and then of course driving over, inspecting the forklift. So I need this for my YouTube channel. I don't want it to die because I've been working at it since 2008 and it's 2023 now, and I'm still at it, right? I'm still doing it. That's probably the longest job I ever had, is this video production. Okay, and that's telling something about me. I really like this stuff, I'm telling you. That's what I would do probably if I had, like, how they always say, how do you choose the proper occupation? You just ask yourself a question: what would you do if you had $1 million in the bank? And what's funny, I remember I asked one of my former Chinese friends this question, and he looks at me kind of funny. He says, why would I need a job if I have a $1 million in the bank? But that's not the question. The question is, you're not gonna lie on the sofa, right? You still want to do something, but now you don't have to work for money. You want to do something fun. Like, basically, what would you do for fun if you had, of course, $1 million nowadays? It's not that much, especially if it's a Canadian currency, so it's like 700,000 US. But still, it gives you an idea when you ask yourself that question. And for me, it definitely would be something creative. I would travel around US and Canada. I would do movies. I would take pictures, and I would keep learning my accordion, just do something creative, right? So that helps you, how they say all these creative endeavors, they help with against Alzheimer's and stuff like that. That's why a lot of older folks, they get sick because their brains get very lazy. They don't learn anything new. They just watch TV, and that's it. So that's what I would do. And so They said $160, but if you do credit application, is going to be $130. And she said, if you want inspection, it's an hour minimum. And I said, how about storage? Can you guys store it over there for a few weeks till I, find a buyer? And the lady says, yeah, I don't think it's going to be a problem. And I found a property on Google Maps. I look at that address, and it's in Cambridge, Ontario, and it's a pretty big property, so they should be able to store this thing. But it does need about 14 feet in length of space and about 5.5 width. So it's not that big, but not exactly small, But I found another shop. So this particular shop that wants $160 an hour, of course, they're expensive because they are a clock dealer. They are the official clock forklift dealer. But I found something like Mr. Mechanic, lift truck service. On their website, the guy says their rate is $125 an hour, again, Canadian, of course, with minimum of 2 hours. And they do have their own tilt, they call it tilt and load service. And they charge like, it was pretty decent. Like they can go and pick up, let's say if you have a forklift that broke down, you could call them and they send the truck. Except that my forklift is like 17,000 pounds, right? So you need at least a tri-drive, or basically you need 3 axles in the back. 16,881. But I definitely don't want to move it too far, right? But I have to remove it from the property, so at least maybe I can do some touch-up, painting job with my friend Alan is coming over. He wants to look at the forklift and help me. Maybe we can, if there's any small issues, we can fix it. And if you remember Alan from my previous videos, you have lots of tools. He would pack his truck. He helped me quite a few times with the trailer. And so, yeah, so this is something along those lines, right? Because he likes machinery, equipment. I said, hey, I don't have a truck anymore, but I can use you with the forklift. And he was interested. So basically, when I'm flying over, we meet over there and we go together to the auction and we see what we can see. Oh, and also the auction has a paint shop, but it's pretty expensive. And also they have a wash. So you can pay them and they will rewash this thing, right? Because I think that's 2 things that would definitely improve the resale value of this is fresh wash. And so I can take fresh pictures, but before the pictures, I would, make it look better, like with some touch-up paint, right? But this thing has, if you saw the previous pictures, it has a very weird bright green color, right? So unless I chip off a piece of paint and take it to like a paint shop where they can match it, and they can probably even put it in a spray can. But I can just, the worst spot on this machine is the counterweight in the very back. And so counterweight, we can paint it separately, right? All I have to do is just clean it up, probably with some sandpaper or some sander, electric machine, and just paint it with some rust paint. I don't know, would probably look cool because the forks are black, the top of the cab is black. They just leave the sides green and paint the rear black, and then just sell it. Probably it would be best to probably sell it to US, because US currency is 30% stronger right now than Canadian currency. And a friend of mine, the broker, he says he'll help me with customs. So it will be interesting experience, if I need to ship it. Because then, of course, it's what I used to do as a trucker, right? So we have to find a customs broker, but now I would act as a shipper. Then I would have to find a carrier, and deal with all this paperwork. And of course, it's export into US. It's still considered a machinery. Well, luckily it's not, no wait, it's not export from US, it's export into US or import from Canada, but probably there's some crazy regulations. And one interesting guy I talked to, like I talked to a bunch of people today, mostly about service, but one interesting thing happened when I was looking at Google Maps, because I'm thinking, hold on, this auction is in Bolton, Ontario, right, which is like 50 kilometers north of Toronto. I don't want to move it far, because of course the further I move, the more money it will cost me, right? And I have no idea who will buy it. Maybe some guy from Quebec will buy it, you know, or Nova Scotia, right? So I don't want to move it too far. And so Bolton is actually a pretty big industrial center. Lots of companies there. So I searched for forklift repair shop Bolton. There was like 3 or 4, but their Google rating was not very good. And then I see something in Vaughan or Concord, Ontario, which is like northern part of Toronto. And I see a name which somehow rings a bell. It's called Modern Forklift. Modern Forklift. And I'm like, how do I know this name? And it just hit me that when I came to Canada in '97, I spent the first couple of years doing some BS jobs with no money, like selling insurance. Then I worked in retail. And I think it was around 2000 when I was totally ran out of money. And somebody told me that tow truck drivers make good money. So I think it was around 2000. So I started a career as a tow truck driver, but I had a D license, which is like, you know, for 10-ton truck. And so they put me on this tilt and load or roll-off truck. And we did a lot of work for repair shops and rental places that had these small machines, you know, like forklifts, mini excavators, because, you know, my truck, right, I could only do maybe 8,000 pounds in cargo. But I remember I was so interested in this machinery. This was my first time dealing with this. And of course I would have to load them myself. And I liked operating that. It was all hydraulic, that bed, you know. I became very good at it. I could pick up a container. You know, they would send us to pick up a 20-foot container from the ground. And I could do it with this bed and with the cable, with the winch. You just have to push it up a little bit, put a piece of timber underneath, then drop the bed again, put the bed really under it, right? Push it into the timber and then hook up the winch, drag it up. It was pretty cool, except that you're always dirty. You work in traffic. It's super dangerous. You know, people are flying by at 100 kilometers an hour, 2 meters away when you're, you know, changing a tire on the side of the road. It was a crazy job, but I was super happy when they would send me on this equipment run, right? I would go maybe to like a construction site, pick up a rental machine that is going back to the rental place, like a small, you know, Bobcat. So we were doing a lot of these small machines, Bobcats, mini excavators, rollers, and forklifts. And one of our very big customers was this Modern Forklift. And that's how I remember the name. So I was there quite a few times. I remember it was pretty tight, even though it's an industrial area, but everything is tight. But we would go there with the tilt and load, drop the forklift, you know, with the winch, like tilt the bed and release the brakes and just start releasing the winch, and it just drives down. And so I called these guys. I said, hey, I didn't tell them that I used to work with them, but I just said, I need some advice, and I was wondering if you guys can help me with some, you know, repair or service. And the guy says, okay, so what's up? I said, well, I bought a forklift. He said, what kind of forklift? I said, well, it's older type Clark C500. And he says, oh man, that's like 40 years old. I said, no, sir, come on, it's not 40 years old. I said, according to my Google research, they said this machine was produced between 87 and 94. So I hope it's like 94, so which is 6 plus 23, so 29 years. Come on, not 40. But of course it can be 87. That's another, what, 4? That's another 7 years. Then it's like 37. No, 29 versus 37. But this guy says, no. He says, they started making them in 60s. I said, no, come on. I said, I saw pictures. I didn't see the machine myself in person, but I saw the pictures. It doesn't look that bad, you know. It cannot be from 60s, but I've been mistaken before, you know, quite often, especially when I was pulling a flatbed and step deck. You know, they would give us some machine, you know, like some factory machine. And I remember I was always asking questions. What does it do? What is it? You know, how much does it cost? I was always curious about this stuff. Just, you know, curious cat. And I remember quite often these machines, they still worked, they still looked good, but they were like freaking 70, 80 years old, you know, like a factory machines. And so, yeah, so this forklift looks good. And the inspection report says, you know, nothing major is wrong with it. But this guy from Modern Forklift says it's not a very good machine for resale. Because I told him, I said, I just want to, you know, make some money on it. And I said, why not? And he says, well, even when they were brand new, he says, these Clark C500s, they were famous for leaks. He says they would leak. They would have a leak, either, let's say, engine or transmission, or he says the most dangerous and most expensive to fix is a leak on the mast, you know, the hydraulic lines where this thing goes up and down. He says, when you go there, because I told him, I said, I'm in Calgary, but I'm flying over on the weekend. He says, when you go there, the first thing you should check is there any leaks on the mast? Do the brakes work? You know, do the lights work? And he says, it's a tank. This machine is very strong when it works. That's what he called it, a tank. I'm guessing, sorry, in a good way. But he says, it's known for leaks. And he says, if it's that leak on the mast, can cost $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. So it's not worth it, right? And I called the auction. I said, I'm just curious. Let's say I show up there and we try to start it. I said, I haven't paid yet, but I said, I bought it. This is mine. I bought this particular lot number so and so. And she says, you didn't pay yet? I said, no, I have 7 days, right? And she said, okay, so what's the question? I said, well, the question is, I go there and we try to start it, and there's like 2 square acres of oil around the machine. What do I do? Do I still have to pay? And she says, well, if you don't pay, we'll send it to collections. So basically, I bought it, right? I said, it does not matter what the condition is, because of course, you know, that's what they say in the paperwork. You know, if you look at the terms and conditions, all sales are final, and it's the responsibility of the buyer to inspect the machine before bidding. And so of course they want their money. But she says, well, if it's really bad, you can just relist it for the next auction. Very smart lady, because she's upsell, right? Upsell, because now I paid $600 in fees. I haven't paid yet, but it's included. So what they charge on this machine, up to $10,000, they charge 10%, right? So I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's not exactly cheap, right? And so if I relist it again, wait, I think the seller, who's paying? Seller or buyer? I think both. But anyway, so I know that it's in their interest for me to relist it. And of course, the problem, I don't know, people, if you guys know this, but Ritchie Brothers in US and Canada, at least, all their auctions are non-reserved, meaning that you cannot say, hey, I don't want this to sell for less than, let's say, $20,000. You know, let's say you paid $20,000 for something and now you want to sell it but you cannot set the minimum bid. If there's not enough people there or not enough interest, somebody can buy it for $5, right? So that's what that's why they call it non-reserved or unreserved auction. And of course, that's good for a buyer, but it's bad for the seller. And another thing I did, I talked to a friend of mine who has a couple of friends working at Ritchie Brothers. And he explained to me the procedure. I said, what do they do when, let's say, somebody brings a machine and everything is good, but then it sits there and they see all of a sudden a huge oil leak? And he said, well, that's a problem definitely, because they cannot have oil leaks on the property, because they can get some big fine, right? Because it's contamination. And so he says what they do is, if they notice, let's say they clean up the machine, if the guy asks them to wash it, they washed it, everything looks good one day, then second day all of a sudden they show up in the morning, there's a big puddle of oil. And he says what they do usually, they would call the seller and they would tell them to come in and fix it. Or if they refuse to fix it, then Ritchie Brothers, they have their own shop, or they have their own contractors that they can call. And they say, well, if you don't fix it, we're going to fix it and we'll bill you. Plus, of course, profit, right? So they're not going to just, let's say they hire a mechanic and the mechanic charges them, I don't know, $5,000. Ritchie Brothers is not going to charge the seller $5,000. They will add at least 10% or 15%, right? Like a service fee. But that's what they do. And so that still gives me hope that maybe this machine is not in as bad a condition as the guy from Modern Forklift led me to believe. But he says, if you get lucky, it's a solid machine. He says it's a tank, right? But just watch for those leaks. And so that's the plan. So the plan is, I had the lens coming, and the lens did arrive today. Check this out. I wanted to show you this beauty. This is 105 millimeter macro. I never had a macro lens in my life. So this thing, you can use it for, like a portrait, right? Because it's 105 and it's a Z lens, or Z lens. But you can also use it for macro photography. You can put it on a tripod and take pictures of, let's say, some bugs or some caterpillars or something, or some tiny drops of water, like this far, and this will like magnify it. It's like a binocular. A super cool lens. So I got it. So this is what I was waiting for. So it arrived as scheduled today. And the second, and of course we're gonna pair it, as they say, with this baby over here, right? With Nikon Z6. This is my new camera. So the Z9 is gone. So the guy paid me the final, what was it, like $2,600? He still owes me $300, but I trust him. So I went over to the UPS store and I shipped it. So he's in Montreal, like on the other side of Canada. And he said tomorrow he's gonna send me $300. But he already paid me like 2 times in like 3 installments, because he did not realize there was a limit of $3,000 per 24 hours. And so I trust him, but I didn't tell him yet that I shipped it. So I'm gonna wait till I get the last $300 tomorrow, and I'll give him the tracking number. And so the only thing that's holding me here is tomorrow, Saturday, I'm waiting for, wait, let me double check. I'm waiting for my new Hero 10. Let's see over here, Amazon. Track your package, because sometimes they change delivery. Arriving tomorrow by 10 p.m. Ordered Monday, May 8th. Shipped Tuesday, May 9th. And today is 12th. And so that's my Hero 10. Oh, and I already sold Hero 9. The guy called me from Facebook Marketplace. The new one is like $350 on Best Buy. I wanted $300. The guy says, how about $200? I said, no way, $225. And he says, okay, that's fair. So I sold him the GoPro for $225, but I used it for like 2 or 3 years. It worked 24/7, as you know. That was my main camera, like they last forever. And I said, okay, I'll throw in a small, a small SD card, but I didn't give him one of these, which is like 64 gigs, I think. I just gave it like 16 gigabytes, And so yeah, that's it. Those are the news. So the new camera is here, the old camera is gone, the new lens is here, GoPro is coming, Forklift is sitting there waiting for me. So we'll definitely do a video when when I meet Alan, we go over there and we check out the forklift and do some quick, inspection of, how it works. Like, of course, brakes, lights, the hydraulics, can it lift anything, But again, I still cannot believe that you can legally buy something with a serial number, with a make and model, but no year, And they say, yeah, clock forklift, that's how they sell them. They never put the year in. Can you figure out the year from the serial number? No, not with the clock forklift. Interesting. Oh, and some guy emailed me today for a quote, asking to move an excavator. And I say, is it an oversize? He starts laughing. No. It's this one. Gives me make and model. I said, how much does it weigh? 22 tons. And of course, I always ask, metric or imperial? Because you never know. In Canada, we're supposed to use metric, but nobody does that. Usually people go by, feet and inches, right? And the guy was thrown back at first, but then he says, imperial, 22. And then I checked the website, like Ritchie Brothers specs, and that particular excavator is 55,000 pounds. So it was metric, 22 metric. Well, probably even more than that. And it's 9.8 feet wide and 10 feet tall. So it is oversized, right? And I talked to a few carriers, got a feeling for the rate. And in Alberta, most people, if it's a local work, they will charge by the hour from the time they leave the yard, right? Let's say they drive an hour to pick up, they load for 2 hours, then they drive to a delivery an hour, then they drive back to the yard, and that's what they charge for. They charge all the hours. And this guy, it looks like he has a couple of projects, like construction projects, and he wanted a quote for, I don't know, it's like crazy. Like first, he says, first it goes this way to this spot. It sits there it works there for a week, then we have to move it to this town number 2, and then it works there for a week, then we move it to town number 3. And he wanted to give me a quote. I said, well, I'll just give you a quote for the first leg, just to give you an idea. I said, this is how it works, so people charge by the hour. Here's the typical rate for something like this. I said, you do need a specialized trailer because it's still 55,000 pounds. And actually, I called one carrier, and I said, do you guys have IGN or double drop trailers? He says, no, we only have step decks. I said, oh, okay, then it's not going to work because it's a 55,000 pound excavator. And this guy says, no, wait, it might work. How wide is it? I said, 9.8. And he keeps kind of like, doesn't let me drop the receiver. And I said, sir, it's not going to work on a step deck trailer. Your trailer is going to buckle. Trust me. Because that's the difference, right? Between a step deck and a double drop or a GN. Step decks don't only have 2 beams in the middle. They have nothing on the side. So if you load a machine like this, and it has tracks, right? And all the weight is on the tracks. That step deck, it's not designed for this. But this guy says, hold on, we might be able to do it. I said, no, sir, thank you. Sorry I have bothered you. And then another guy also emailed me asking me for a quote. this guy has some kind of a, like, you know, typical. They don't have, okay, this guy was not bad, right? Like the machine, it was easy. It's easy to move, except he has some crazy scheduling where to move it. But then this other guy calls me or emails me and he says, well, I have a couple of log loaders, log loader. And he says they're about 13 feet tall. And I don't know, like, I said, what are the dimensions? How wide is this? And this guy says, I don't know. I said, are you the owner? He says, yes, but I don't know the dimensions, the exact dimensions. I know it's 13 feet tall. I know the weight. He said that machine is like 65, 67,000 pounds, but I don't know how wide it is. Like, what am I supposed to tell carriers, right? Because that width, like, he sent me a picture. I know it's oversized, but I don't know exactly how wide it is. But most people they don't understand how important that is. And so, boys and girls, if you're shipping machinery and equipment, please make sure you know the make and model, dimensions, origin, destination, and when is it shipping. Now, this guy was serious. Like, oh yeah, I have to move this next week. Oh wait, sorry, I opened the wrong window here. But it's just kind of like funny, you know. Like that's all I got is I got this funny guy with an excavator that has to jump every week to different location, which was not oversized according to him. And then I have this other load where it's 13 feet tall. And again, now check this out. So for the overall height to be 14, and the machine is already 13, right? So you need a trailer that's only 12 inches tall, right? Or you need a beam trailer. So those are expensive options. Or you need a mini deck like this one, right? But this thing is still like 68, almost 70,000 pounds, you know. And most mini decks, they're not very strong. So anyway, I couldn't give a quote to this guy because he doesn't know dimensions. So, but those are my news, so we'll do the rest. Next video probably will be from Bolton, Ontario. You know, wait, I know they don't allow recording, but somewhere from the vicinity, right? Somewhere from the vicinity. So the plan is first you have to go with Alan, inspect it, check it out, see if we can get it started and see how it works. And then issue number B or plan B is to find a storage or parking area and then hire a trucker, move it over there. And then once we are on that private property, so maybe we can meet with Alan again and do some touch-up paint job, you know, or maybe I can go and match the paint at one of the paint shops if I scrape a sample. So we'll see. So yeah, so next week is gonna be interesting. Thanks for watching.